Nick, what are you doing?
Huh? Oh, Flagasanubi.
Huh?
Hapasapata.
Huh?
Slabakaduba.
Huh?
Goeienorg?
Sul Sul, my children, your father has brought you a new nail art video. The Sims recently celebrated their 25th anniversary as a franchise, and I wanted to join the party of one of my favorite video games by painting it on my nails. Released in February of 2000, The Sims was originally designed as a furnishing simulator when game designer Will Wright had to rebuild his life after a house fire. He ended up adding virtual people into the game to test players' designs and realized that that was more fun, and thus The Sims was born. I first picked up The Sims when it initially came out because I'm old, but I didn't really fall in love with the franchise until The Sims 2, which came out in 2004.
2004.
2004.
2004.
What?
2004.
2004. Is that not right?
Nothing is wrong with 2004. It just sounds so formal. You are a little robot.
Back then I attempted to play it on my family's computer, which could barely run it, but I was obsessed nonetheless. In fact, I used to read those expansion pack guidebooks cover to cover because I wasn't able to play it as much as my obsessed little heart wanted to. Like, I used to have the Simlish version of Hot and Cold from The Sims 2 Apartment Life on my iPod as a kid, and I just listened to it nonstop. I honestly still know most of the lyrics to that. Boo, Chigan Meep. Oh wait, copyright. And when The Sims 3 came out in 2009, it was one of my first chances to explore my queer identity because all of the Sims are effectively pansexual until decided by the player. And while it's not perfect, I can't thank this game enough for giving me the chance to see a queer adult life back when I was unable to see that in the media or video games at large. And fast forward to present day, there's been 3 sequels, a million packs, and a bunch of spin-off games since it was first released. So there's been a ton of icons and symbols throughout the years, and I picked some of my favorites for inspiration for this nail art, so let's get into it. To make everything really complicated, I made each design pretty much free-handed over a base color, so I started with that first. Since it's easier to build color up, I started with the lightest color of each design as the base layer. That way I'd always be placing the more opaque polish over the sheer one to achieve the strongest graphic effect. Now, all polishes that I used are going to be listed in the description below, but feel free to use something similar if you don't have the exact shade that I used. And as I get through each design, I'm also going to info dump about the inspiration, so I hope you're ready for some Sims lore. For the pinky, I started with several coats of a skin tone polish as the base layer. And if you haven't guessed it, we have the queen, the legend, mother, some might say, Bella Goth herself. Now, Bella is a staple of the Sims franchise, as I believe she appeared in every game, including most of the spin-offs. Bella was first introduced in The Sims 1 as a member of one of the pre-made families, the Goths. She's most known for her iconic red dress and mid-length bob, but I took inspiration from her appearance in The Sims 2, including a golden necklace with a green charm. Or should I say lack of appearance, because The Sims 2 actually takes place after the first game, where Bella Goth has gone mysteriously missing, and her husband Mortimer has to take care of their 2 kids, Cassandra and Alexandra, all alone. And one of my favorite details about The Sims 2 is that if you look in some of the memories of the pre-made Sims, it's almost implied that Bella Goth was abducted by aliens. And actually, she exists as an NPC in another town in the game, that being Strangetown, knowing nothing of her past life. All I hope is that the Sims movie explores this. I'm gonna be so mad if that Bella is not in the Sims movie. And if little Simsy does not have a feature in the Sims movie, EA, I'm coming for you. I will be very upset. They got Matt Pat in the FNAF movie. They can get Lil Simsy in the Sims movie.
Kayla Lil Simsy.
Kayla Lil Simsy. Her last name is Sims. She's literally built for this. But anyways, this nail art is actually super easy. I used a shimmery red polish as the dress color because her dress has always been red, but the exact color and pattern has been different throughout the years. The bottle of this polish actually had a rounded tip, which I was able to use to make the sweetheart neckline shape of the dress. It took a couple of swipes to get to full opacity and to achieve adequate symmetry, but it was relatively easy. And low-key, you can stop here and use this design as a Valentine's Day inspired French tip idea if you'd like. And then I used my mid-length liner brush and a gold shimmery polish to make the gold necklace. I pulled 2 lines from the center outwards, making a V shape, not really caring if I got any on my skin because I can clean that up later with a cleanup brush and a little bit of acetone. And then finally, with my smallest brush, I used a jewel tone green shifty polish to make the charm of the necklace. Honestly, this was one of the more simple designs, but it's also one of the most effective because I think it perfectly matches her iconography. Swoosh. Moving on to the next finger, it's time for the cow plant.
Why do you need to go?
Because cows have a nasally moo.
Does the cow plant move?
No. I used an off-white polish as the base layer and built up the design from there. And the cow plant is exactly what it sounds like. It's a plant with a cow's head, leaves around its neck, sometimes a cowbell, and an udder hanging off of it. And while strange, the cow plant has grown to become a symbol of The Sims, even though it wasn't added until the first expansion pack in The Sims 2, that being The Sims 2 University Life. Only unlocked as a career reward, not a lot of players knew about this bovine plant that had a knack for killing your Sims. On the tip of its tongue is a slice of cake that entices your Sims to go and grab it, but if they do, they become the cow plant's lunch. However, milking the cow plant after it feeds gives you an elixir of life that helps make your Sims a little younger in their current life state. And while the cow plant has become slightly less deadly over the years, it's a staple of the franchise and deserves a place on my nails. Now, to actually paint this design, I used a black polish to make a cow print, painting irregular blob shapes across the nail. Then I went in with a deep green polish to make leaves near the top of the nail. To do this, I tried to make little football shapes to represent the leaves. But I wanted to add more detail to the leaves, so I went in and added veins with a lighter olive green polish. That was done by bringing the lighter color down the middle of the leaf and then a couple of offshoots on either side. And like Bella, this one was relatively simple and made a really effective nail art look. And even though the cake is enticing, let's move on to the next nail art. Now this one was probably the simplest design, but I couldn't make a Sims manicure without painting a Plumbob.
Why is it called a plumbob?
A Plumbob is a thing that you hang down to get a vertical line. A weight on a string is a Plumbob. You know, sometimes they're diamond shaped. Originally designed as a simple indicator to show the player which Sim they're currently controlling, the Plumbob has become probably the most iconic symbol of the franchise. And while you might have mostly seen it green, the color of the Plumbob is used to indicate the Sim's mood, emotional state, or life satisfaction, depending on which game you're playing. Now to paint this, I used the same shade as Bella's necklace because I'm fairly confident that on her necklace is actually a Plumbob, so I wanted to make them match. To try to make the line as straight as possible, I used my medium liner brush and rotated it as I was picking up the polish. With the twisting motion, you make sure that there's not any extra blobs of polish on the brush, so your line can be straight and even. Then I started with one vertical line down the nail to try to get a sense of size and scale of the Plumbob. Next, I pulled two lines to make an upside down V, and then did a regular V underneath it to form the diamond shape. It did take a couple of layers to get to full opacity, but I really wanted to make sure that this was as shifty as the Plumbob is in the game, although at some point I was a little sloppy on the edges, so I did have to go in with my cleanup brush in the base color to try to straighten the line as best as possible. Now normally I don't paint with my cleanup brush, but I wanted something very sharp in order to make those edges neat. And if you're interested in picking up my literal favorite cleanup brush, check out the description below. It's from Jessie Monroe Nail Care and I have an affiliate link. And after some finishing touches, the Plumbob nail art was complete. Oh, it's 7 and he hasn't eaten yet. He's gonna be annoying soon. Young man, behave. Now next up is the most complicated design, which took inspiration from the Freezer Bunny. The Freezer Bunny is a long-time Easter egg in the Sims franchise, originating in The Sims 2 where you can find a pink bunny character inside of a grocery store freezer. Then it just became something that the developers keep hiding in stuff over the years, such as in a toy box, in the dryer, or in the refrigerator. Now there's literally nothing that this guy has done for the gameplay, but he's an icon nonetheless, and so he deserves a spot on my nails. I started with a bright pink color as the base layer, and then I went in with a blush pink and my medium liner brush to make two vertical parallel lines down the middle of the nail. Using the same color, I added some blush on what would become his cheeks, and a little triangle-shaped nose at the tip of my nail. Now these two lines actually formed the inside of the bunny ears. As you'll see later, I formed the actual bunny ear shape by using negative space with another color that I'm going to add later. But first, to help figure out the spacing, I used an off-white to make two circles for the eyes. And to actually block out the ears, I used a darker blue as the background color because it had more coverage than the other blues that I used in this set. So I used my medium liner brush and pulled one line down the middle and then horizontally across the top and then down on the sides. And even though the actual Freezer Bunny's ears just go straight down into the body, I did add a little dent outwards because I wanted it to read more like bunny ears on the nail. And lastly, I did curve the tips of the ears ever so slightly because even though the Freezer Bunny is mostly a geometric shape, the ears are slightly curved. The very last step was to paint the pupils of the eyes, and it was terrifying. This little bunny was coming out so cute that I was getting so stressed. Look and see how much I'm shaking right now. And while I was taking the reveal shot, I realized that the sides were a little uneven, so I went back in with more of the background layer to fix it, and finally the freezer bunny nail was complete. And finally, when I was painting this, it was approaching lunchtime, so I was hungry and I wanted to paint grilled cheese on my nails because that always makes me think of The Sims. Now that might seem a little odd that there's a random food associated with this game, but that's because back in The Sims 2, your Sims could have life goals like make a lot of money, have a big family, find love, but there's also a secret aspiration where your Sims life goal could just be grilled cheese. Like personally, I relate to that. I love grilled cheese. So this is secret because in the game there's an unlockable item where your Sims can use it to change their aspiration, but if they use it when they're not in the best mental state, it will backfire and you'll be stuck with a grilled cheese aspiration. And since then, it's been a hidden aspiration that has shown up in every main series game. You can actually unlock it in The Sims 4 if you have your Sims cook grilled cheese 3 times in a row, but the aspiration reward is not really worth it because it just gives you a mid-quality grilled cheese at any time, and why would you ever do that if your Sims love grilled cheese and they just get an okay grilled cheese? Not worth it, don't do it. Sims 2, best game. I will die on that hill. But that's why I decided it needed to go on my nails. All with my tiny brush, I made 2 right triangles with their hypotenuses facing into each other.
Saying the word hypotenuse.
I wrote hypotenuse.
I know you did, and I changed it because this is not 7th grade geometry class, Nicholas.
Tell me in the comments below if you know what the hypotenuse is of a triangle. And of course, I had to cut the sandwich diagonally because that is the correct way to consume a sandwich. I used a yellowy off-white to make the bread and a beige to make the crust. Next, I added the perfect Kraft Singles yellow to make some melty cheese going between the 2 slices.
You wrote delicious, delicious cheese pull.
Ha!
Do you want to say delicious, delicious cheese pull?
Yes, to make a delicious, delicious cheese bowl. I then went in with that yellow polish to make some cheese below the bread that I first painted and more of the crust color to try to make a more 3D effect. This did take a couple of coats because the yellow polish wasn't as opaque as I wanted it to be. And finally, I mixed some of the colors together in order to make a little bit of texture so that way the sandwich looked like it was cooked, though you can't really see it on the nail because the shine of the light is kind of blocking it. And after a little bit more melty cheese, the grilled cheese nail is complete. And here's the 5 Sims Anniversary inspired nail art. I didn't do a top coat yet to give it a ton of time to dry, but overall, I'm really proud of 4 out of 5 of them. And while the grilled cheese is a symbol of The Sims, and I was a little hungry while I painted this, I don't think it reads as well because there isn't as significant of a color contrast as there are on the other nails, and using a smoother shading makes things look a little muddled. Honestly, it kinda looks like a weird lumpy bra on my nails, so I decided to take it off and paint something else there instead. I wanted something more graphic to match the style of the other nails in this set, so I went with a version of the woohoo heart. Woohooing is when your Sims are, you know, But one thing you might not actually know is that woohooing wasn't originally in the base game. It actually came out in the first expansion pack for The Sims 1 with the iconic vibrating heart bed. So there's actually been several variations of this icon throughout the years, but I went with this one to match the graphic nature of the other nails. I started with my mid-length liner brush and used an eggplant purple to paint a V on the nail. And then I made 2 C shapes to make the top of the heart. On my first pass, I thought that the heart was a little too small, so I made it bigger before I filled it in with this base purple color. And I know it's a little wonky, but that's on purpose because the icon itself is a little uneven. Then I grabbed a bright purple to make a gradient inside of the heart, but I almost spilled a giant glob of it on my nail while I was trying to put it on the mat. I missed though. So I mixed up those colors to try to create a loose gradient where it was lighter in the center and back to the original color near the edges of the heart. And then with that off-white, I added a slightly curved horizontal line that's thicker on one side to make the smile. For the eyes, I made 2 circles of different sizes with the smaller one on the thinner side of the smile and the larger one on the thicker side of the smile. Next, I very carefully added a dot to each eye that is closer to the center to give a slight cross-eyed look. And to make the teeth, I used the purple color that was the base of the heart. I could have used black, but the problem is that I was making little vertical lines across the smile, and if it overlapped a little, the black would have really shown over what was underneath it, and it would have looked more messy. So with that purple polish, I added a couple of vertical lines going through to make little smiling teeth. And with that, my Sims manicure is actually complete. Now before you ask, no, I still haven't gotten a water-based top coat for nail art like a big dummy, so instead I was patient and waited about an hour for things to dry. If you don't know, the problem there is that the top coat will rehydrate the polish and free it to smear and ruin your nail art, but I tried something a little different this time. Instead of dragging the top coat down the nail like you normally would, I tried very hard to float the brush. This means that the brush never actually makes contact with the nail, just the top coat itself, thus stopping it from dragging. And after successfully adding the top coat, it's time for the reveal shots. So yeah, I'm really proud of how this set looks. As a longtime Sims fan, it makes me really happy to see this on my nails, and I'm having a very difficult time picking out my favorite. So let me know in the comments below which design is your favorite, but also let me know if I taught you anything new about The Sims. I really love the idea of video game inspired nail art. I got lots of encouraging comments to make more even after the astounding success of the last video game, Manicure. I do know I want to paint a Pokemon manicure because Pokemon Day is coming up soon, but let me know if there's any other video games you'd like to see. I'm thinking Splatoon, Animal Crossing, or maybe Portal. And also, let me know if you'd ever be interested in watching me stream The Sims. I'm mostly a builder at this point, like my girl Little Simsy, so let me know if that's something you'd like to see. And finally, don't forget to like and subscribe down below. I'm off to go play The Sims 2. I'll see y'all in the next one. Dag dag! Is that what you want? Do you want dinner?